topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Barry G. Fowler, EA, brings you Tax Talk for You right here on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV. As an enrolled agent and a national leader in tax resolution, as well as trucker, bookkeeping, and tax planning with over 30 years of experience, Barry will break down taxes, bookkeeping, tax planning, and tax relief for individuals and businesses just like you. So let's have some Tax Talk for You with your host, Barry G. Fowler.
Hey, welcome to Tax Talk for You. Hey, check us out at taxtalkforyou.com. Subscribe there. Here today, Veterans Day. We take a few moments to pause, honor the brave men and women who have put their lives on the line to defend our freedoms, the freedoms we cherish here in the United States. It's not just a holiday. It's a reminder of the sacrifices that these brave men and women, our veterans, put themselves out there for us to allow us to live our everyday lives and the freedoms that we have. It's about remembering those soldiers who left home facing the unknown, missed their families and their family gatherings, maybe watched their children's birthdays and their birthday parties, and faced ungodly challenges out there just for the love of our country. And so we should take the time to remember them and give thanks. We have a lot of good friends, both that are truckers and veterans, personal friends of mine who sacrificed their family to be out there and to defend our freedoms. Michael, a dear friend of ours, he's a veteran. He put his life out there. He came back with some injuries, and we appreciate, we help him wherever we can and take care of and honor his sacrifice and his services. And many others that we have known throughout the years and been friends with over the years that have put their lives on hold just to make the sacrifice for us and our country. So, again, if you see a veteran out there, tell them thank you. And it doesn't have to be here on Veterans Day only. Any day you see somebody in the military, thank them for their service. These are men and women who are stopping everything to get out there and protect yours and my freedoms and freedoms for our children and our grandchildren. Here today, we get to actually talk about something that, kind of excites me because we're getting a new administration in, and yes, it's an old one, Trump coming back, but the possibility of all the tax cuts. We had no idea where we were going to be heading after 2025 with the taxes and what was going to happen with the tax policy. The current administration wanted to get rid of the tax policy that we are living under currently and go back to what we had back in 2017 because these Trump tax cuts that took effect expire at the end of 2025. Now we're expecting with the Congress coming in, both the House and the Senate, and President Trump, that the 2017 tax cuts, hopefully they will come in and make those permanent. So we won't live under a temporary tax policy, but we'll actually live under a known tax policy that we have currently. And so that was the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. And, it lowered the individual tax rates. it set a higher standard deduction, gave us higher child tax credits. It put a cap on deducting state and local taxes. It gave a larger lifetime estate and gift tax exemption. And all those were going to be slated to end. So now we're hoping that Congress will come in and do this and put this in and make this a permanent part of the tax code, not just temporary. So, what we're looking at the moment, we look at the standard deduction. The standard deduction is for single for 2024 is going to be $14,600. If you're married filing jointly, it's $29,200. And if you're head of household, it's $21,900. Now, you can choose to deduct the standard deduction or the itemized. The reason you choose itemized is you're going to be able to get over the standard amount and the standard deduction. So if you're single and you bought a house recently and the higher interest rates and everything, you might, between your interest deduction, your state and local tax deduction, and charitable deductions, you just might get over that standard deduction of $14,600. And it's the same with married filing joint. If you're going to itemize, you've got to get over that. So, if you're very charitable and you give a lot of money to charity, that will be a big hurdle for you to get over and get that as an itemized deductions. But combined with your mortgage interest and property taxes and state and local taxes, you might get over that $29,200. So you got to take a look at it for your situation. And then the standard deduction also is going to bump you up. So if you're at least 65 or blind, you can claim an additional standard deduction of $1,950. If you're using single or head of household filing status, if you're both 65 and blind, the additional deduction amount is doubled. So keep those things in mind because it gives you a little bit more of an advantage out there. So with those things in mind, you got to really sit down and look at it. What's your filing status? How old are you? What is your standard deduction versus itemized deductions? And every good tax preparer out there should be looking at this across the board for every person that they prepare taxes for. So if you've got mortgage interest and property taxes and charitable contributions, both cash, and if you're making donations of non-cash items, both of those count towards getting to the itemized deductions to get over your standard deduction. But you got to take a look at that. Now, to be honest, there are a lot of people that don't qualify because they're still under low interest rates, and maybe they don't give very much to charity or a lot less. I mean, everybody's world is different. So, you've got to get over that standard deduction amount. So you take a look at it. It's not something that everybody gets out there and is able to do. Now, one of the other benefits of the Trump tax cuts was the child tax credit. So the child tax credit increased under the Trump tax laws. And, there were 40 million families nationwide each year use this to help offset some of the cost for raising children. Now, you get a $2,000 credit for each child that's under 17. The government acts as if you're 17 or 18, that it doesn't cost you that much to raise your child, so you don't get the child tax credit. I've never understood that. I don't know anybody understands that. Sometimes those 17 and 18-year-olds cost me more than when they were, 13, 14, or 15. They started driving. Now all of a sudden you've got more in insurance, you've got more vehicle costs. And vehicle insurance isn't cheap once you get another driver out there. So, I've never understood why the child tax credit stops there. But if they are 17 or older, you do get $500 credit for each one of them. And that goes for, other dependents too. So full-time students, 19 through 24, you'll be able to get that $500 credit as well. Now, we're expecting a lot of this to stay in place with the new Congress out there. We're trying to find, what's going to change based on, how Trump ran for re-election and what his promises are. And, as you're sitting down and looking at this, how it's going to affect you and your family in 2025 and beyond. And hopefully some of the changes that Trump was looking at doing is going to come into play in 2024 with Congress. Maybe they'll make it retroactive, but at the very least, it's going to be in 2025. We see a lot of changes coming up for there. One of the other big advantages, and we're going to talk about this a little bit and how this works in your favor as an American citizen, and for families out there, is taking advantage of the lifetime estate and gift tax exemption. Also, why you can, and what Trump did under the 2017 Trump tax laws that help you or your family when you're passing an estate along. And we will talk about that right after this quick break.
We have only scratched the surface of today's show. Please stand by as Barry G. Fowler will be right back with Tax Talk for You. As an owner-operator, you already spend too much time away from your family. Trucker Tax Tools handles all your bookkeeping and taxes no matter what level trucker you are. Life on the road can be taxing, but that doesn't mean that your wallet or time with your family should suffer. Trucker Tax Tools makes your life run smoothly. Go to truckertaxtools.com for a free guide that will give you the tools to never worry about your taxes again. Call Trucker Tax Tools at 877-966-2477 or go to truckertaxtools.com now and let the experts keep you trucking. Let's get back to Tax Talk for You with more Tax Talk. Once again, here's your host, Barry G. Fowler.
Hey, welcome back. When I talk at Truck to Success, it's a seminar put on by Owner Operator Independent Drivers Association. Talking to truckers, and we get into the nitty gritty of taxes and how to save money on taxes. But we always talk about what's coming up in tax laws, and we talk about politicians, we talk about celebrities, we talk about people that are rich, and we talk about tax planning. One of the things that I really hit home for is every politician I've ever known has never found a tax that they didn't like, and finding ways to tax people. Now, conservatives are more of, hey, lower the tax rates is going to generate more economic boom and more to the economy. But they still got to bring in the tax money to pay for the things that the government is supposed to do for us, and even pay for the things the government shouldn't be doing for us. But that's another topic for later in this, that we'll get on my soapbox and be able to explain my philosophy and my thoughts. But gift tax and estate tax, this is taxing money that's already been taxed, maybe once, maybe twice, maybe three times, and maybe even more. And so, when we deal with family businesses and passing the businesses on from one family member to another, or passing family ranches or farms, or just the estate for most families, if you're going to tax it, and you're going to tax close to 40-50%, And then depending on whether you're in the state, what state you're in, you may get a state tax as well. But passing on family land even becomes very, very expensive. But, luckily under the Trump tax cuts in 2017, you're able to pass on about $12,900, $12,900,000 of estate money to your family. So you can pass that down. Now, not everybody's going to hit it, but sometimes you do hit that just because the value of your land or the value of your business might get you to there. One thing that you can do if you have that kind of money, or if you're trying to maybe help your child or grandchild or even great grandchild out, you do have some annual gift limits. And for 2024, it's $18,000 that you can give to a family member or individual that's going to go to them and then not have to file a gift tax return for. But if you're married, then it can go up to $36,000. Now, the nice part is you can give $18,000 to, let's say, your daughter and $18,000 to your son-in-law, and then your spouse can do the same thing, and so there would be an amount of up to $72,000, and that's money that you can pass through to family that you don't have to file that gift tax return to do it. So, keep those kind of things in mind. If we're looking to pass money through down to the generations, this one way of doing it. In 2025, it's going to go to $19,000. And the state limit is going to go up to $13.61 million or $13.99 million in 2025. So there are some great limits out there. Now, what is Trump going to do? So when we look at what Trump's going to do, Trump wants to drop taxes on businesses, U.S. businesses. Now, the one thing you got to understand, people say, hey, tax business, tax business, tax business. Well, businesses still have to get a certain rate of return. When you're in business to make money, not just for pay the employees, but to give a rate of return to your investors. And so if you are Exxon, you are Walmart, you are Family Dollar, whatever you are out there in business, even small mom and pop, you've got to make a certain amount of money. And the only way you can do that is to charge a certain rate that's going to give you that kind of return on the goods or services that you provide. Now, if the government comes in and increases your taxes by 10%, where's that money going to come from? Well, most people think money is going to come right out of the business. Well, the business still has to provide a rate of return. The business still needs to provide mom and pop a certain amount of money to make ends meet. Yes, I could fire somebody and pay the taxes. That's one less person working. But we need that person working to provide the services to the people that we're providing services or goods to. So now I've got to increase the price of the product that I am providing by more than 10%. See, it wasn't a tax on the business. It was a tax on the consumer, disguised as a tax on the business. Hey, have you ever looked at the actual taxes in fuel tax at the pump? You have your state taxes, you have your federal fuel taxes, and then you have the actual cost of the gasoline. So if that tax was roughly 45 cents out of every gallon of gas, Government's taking the money still from you. You just don't see it because it's embedded into the price of that gallon of gasoline that you just purchased at the pump. See, big business didn't pay it. They just collected it and remitted it to Uncle Sam. So they're out there collecting their money. So Trump has talked about a lot of different things. So he's proposed some changes in going to a couple of individual tax rates, being 15 and 30%. That 30% would start at $170,000. 15% maximum long-term capital gains tax rate. They will have, what he wants to do is give an annual inflation indexing of capital gains. So these are some of the ideas that are being floated out there for Trump tax cuts. So, it's things like that could be a good thing for you or I to see, that there'd be less tax brackets out there. But there's no guarantee that that's where they're going to go in these Trump tax cuts. Now, Trump has also talked about getting rid of taxes on Social Security. Great idea. People 65 and older, the people that are on Social Security, need that money to live on. It is not enough money to live on day to day, week to week, year to year. And it doesn't keep up with inflation as well. So if that is your only fallback is Social Security, getting that money normally would be tax-free anyway because you don't have any other income. But if it allows you to go out and get a part-time job to supplement that and keep Social Security tax-free, that's even better for you and I, getting out and continuing to work in retirement, even if it's on a part-time basis, and keeping Social Security tax-free. So that is a good thing. He has talked about doing no tax on tips. That could be a good thing, but again, you've got to look at where people are in earning income on tips and tipped employees. They're making very little. Usually, if they're a restaurant worker, they make very little hourly and rely on tips that are out there. There should be still some kind of base in there. Not sure how he's going to implement making tips tax-free and what's already not disclosed, because certain restaurants are only required to put in a certain percentage for tips, and who knows what people keep on a cash basis, if cash is still used out there for tips. So, we take a look at those things, and, after we come back from this break, we're going to talk about what they're talking about doing for the child tax credits, as well with the new possible Trump tax laws going forward. And we'll talk about that right after this.
We have only scratched the surface of today's show. Please stand by, as Barry G. Fowler will be right back with Tax Talk for You. If you owe the IRS or are going through an IRS audit, don't go at it alone. Call Taxation Solutions Tax Relief at 888-930-1016. We are your solution for IRS debts, audits, back taxes, garnishments, liens, and levies. Whether you're an individual or business, you need a solution and a strong, aggressive tax resolution. Don't let the IRS walk all over you. Stop the IRS now. Call 888-930-1016 or go to taxationsolutions.net now for a free, no obligation consultation. Let's get back to Tax Talk for You with more Tax Talk. Once again, here's your host, Barry G. Fowler.
Hey, welcome back. We're talking a little bit about Trump tax laws, or the future Trump tax laws, as they may be saying and looking at. We have seen where Republicans in Congress have already introduced some legislation to eliminate taxes on tips and stuff. Whether that strategy is going to work and go forward, don't know. Probably going to have to wait till next year to get those things in place, and what's going to be the mechanics and mechanisms behind it that will help reduce those taxes. Now, one of the big things that Trump and his Vice President pick, J.D. Vance, was talking about giving a higher child tax credit of $5,000 per child. So that's a 250% increase from the current $2,000 per child for child tax credit. And it could go a long way to helping families with children, and I'm sure there's going to be a phase out, and the phase out is not anywhere anybody likes, because a married filing joint, that phase out could be around $250,000. The other question would be, is this a refundable credit? So when they have refundable credits, it means that is it going to pay back to you whether or not you have any taxes to offset with this credit out there? So what part is the redistribution of wealth, so to say, where we're taking from one group and giving to another with this child tax credit? So we've got to look at that and see how the impact is going to be on that, how much of a benefit it is to people with children, and where that phase out is going to be. Because, as they say, they want to make sure everybody taxes the rich. And talking to a lot of people that nowadays, whether you're making 100,000 or 200,000, it doesn't seem like you're making ends meet either. People don't seem to understand that and can't relate. They think that other person's always richer than them, and let's tax them. Hey, why don't we get this down to where we're taxing less and growing the economy? Now, one of the other things that Trump has proposed is to benefit workers that are on overtime pay. And he said he supports making overtime pay non-taxable. Don't know the mechanisms beyond that, but it would be a good thing and lower the burden of taxes. Now, hopefully that means not taxing it for Social Security and Medicare as well. So it doesn't just lower the burden on federal income tax, but lowers the burden on Social Security and Medicare on that, and maybe an incentive for small businesses to have more overtime for their employees, because they wouldn't have to pay that extra 7.5% of those earnings for Social Security and Medicare as the employer match that's out there. When we sit down and we talk about this is all things that are proposed. We're going to see where this heads, over the next, 6 months, 12 months, as we go through Trump presidency, and be able to look at it for small businesses on how this will benefit you and help make you more profitable by continuing to pay less in taxes or reducing the tax burden of running your business. So the tax burden is twofold. It's not just the tax rate that you're going to have in your small business, but it's also the paperwork that's involved in maintaining that small business and meeting in the tax code that's out there. So if you are running a small business and you have employees, not only do you have to pay the Social Security and Medicare, but you also got to take Social Security and Medicare out of your employee's check. And you got to calculate the withholding rate the correct way as well. And then you've got to file your 941s every quarter. You got to file your unemployment forms every quarter. You got to file your state payroll forms every quarter. And you've got to remit the taxes, whether it's weekly, whether it's monthly, whether it's quarterly. It depends on your business and how many employees you have and how much you're paying out every week or every 2 weeks, depending on when your payroll is, will dictate how you're going to pay those taxes in. Now, we see it a lot of times in small businesses. So Taxation Solutions, tax relief, we see problems for small businesses across the board when they're dealing with payroll taxes. Not filing the forms timely, not paying the payroll taxes. And once you do that, now you set yourself up for big, big trouble. And that trouble will compound interest and penalties. And if you ignore it long enough, it may even get down to where it's trust fund penalties, where they're actually assessing those penalties against you personally, not just against the business, and coming after you to collect for the trust fund. Now, the trust fund part of the taxes is the amounts that you withhold from your employees' checks. So that 7.5% of Social Security and Medicare, that federal income tax that you withhold, those you can be assessed a trust fund tax penalty for not paying that money in, which was your employee's money that you were supposed to take out for safekeeping and pass to the IRS. So you want to make sure you're really on top of your payroll and your payroll taxes. Now, the one thing, we've had people come to us and ask us, hey, do you do payroll? And can you do our payroll for us? And yes, we can. Whatever service you choose, it's worth it. Okay. So one thing you want to make sure of, that it's going to be an automated service so that it's going to get done, whether you have your hands in it or not. It's, going to have some kind of guarantees behind it that, as long as you have the money in the account and they can take the money and pay your payroll taxes and be deposited over there, that you're going to know that the forms are going to get filed correctly. The forms are going to get done. Because let me tell you this, I've had somebody tell me, hey, $30 a month for payroll for somebody that maybe a month or whatever is too high. $360 a year. Well, you make one mistake. Well, there went your $360 savings that you didn't want to pay for payroll. You're now paying maybe 10 times that, $3,600, to fix your tax problem. Or that tax problem became compounded. Now, not only are you paying a service fee to fix it, but you're paying government penalties and interest and then trust fund recovery penalty. Guys, if you're a small business, get a payroll service. Get somebody that's going to handle your payroll for you so you don't fall into trouble with the IRS. Hey, now one of the fun parts about this show, and I tell people and I talk to people all the time, and people ask me, hey, what would you do? Well, first off, I'm not a politician, never wanted to be a politician. I'm not running for office locally, nationally, or any way. So don't look to vote for me. And I'm not asking for any votes. But I have a lot of fun talking to people about what I would do if I was king. And I laugh about that because I know we don't have a king here. We have a president. One of our former presidents I felt like he, hey, you got elected and felt like you were king. You did everything executive order. I wish I could do that. But you can't do that. But I can rant. I can have a soapbox. I can tell you how to fix Social Security, how to fix this government in a very short period of time, and have every congressman, senator on board fixing it if we just make a few changes to our government. Hey, you want to know what that is? You got to stay tuned and come back right after this break.
We have only scratched the surface of today's show. Please stand by as Barry G. Fowler will be right back with Tax Talk for You. As an owner-operator, you already spend too much time away from your family. Stop spending time doing paperwork. Go to truckertaxtools.com, a solution built specifically for truckers. Truckertaxtools.com makes your life run smoothly. Let's get back to Tax Talk for You with more Tax Talk. Once again, here's your host, Barry G. Fowler.
Hey, welcome back. I'm going to tell you, hey, this is my soapbox time, and this is the fun one. I've loved this quote that I had read out there and had seen, and I want to tell you back in, I think it was in the 1700s, Benjamin Franklin basically came out and said, when voters figure out they can vote themselves money, it's the end of government. Now I'm paraphrasing, okay? But when you listen to politicians out there, it's what can I give you to make you vote for me? What can I give away to vote for me? Now I'm a conservative person, and one of my favorite presidents was actually John F. Kennedy. It's ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And today, being Veterans Day, veterans gave a lot to this country, and we owe them a lot for the sacrifices that they make to protect yours and my freedom, and in my freedom to actually sit here and be on my soapbox for a little bit. So somebody asked me the other day and said, Mr. Fowler, how would you fix this country? I said, first thing that I would do is term limits across the board. So, senators, congressmen, you have term limits. 2 terms, you're out. If it's good for the president, it's good for you. Serve your 2 terms. Second thing, we end government pensions. That's right, you heard it. We end government pensions. Everybody should be on Social Security. You want to see Social Security get fixed? I do. If every politician was on Social Security, they would fix Social Security in a heartbeat. There's no reason that somebody that's a government employee should be getting 2 or 3 times what you or I could make on Social Security. They should be in Social Security just like you and I. It's not like they're volunteering. It's not like they're giving up their time. Matter of fact, if you look at pensions for congressmen that have served 2 or 3 terms that are out there, they are incredibly, way too high. If they're going to get a pension from this government, that every dollar that they make outside of the government should offset that government pension. For every dollar that they make while they're in office, it should offset what they're making from our federal government. It's your tax dollars and my tax dollars that are out there. And it doesn't serve us a good purpose. Let's take the government back to its roots. And what's the roots? It's the Constitution. It's what this government is supposed to abide by. It's the founding fathers' rules and regulations for this government to honor. Most of the powers back then were reserved to the states, not to the federal government. You and I should be able to vote in our own state what laws and what we, as citizens of our state, want. It doesn't have to abide by national laws. We shouldn't be living under so many national laws. If you look at the regulations that they put on truckers in the Department of Transportation, if you look at all the laws we've got to live under from this federal government and the amount of paperwork that it takes to live within the rules of the government as a business, it's incredible. Even the states have overreach. You got to have a license to go out and fish. I mean, come on. We should be able to go out and fish. Some of the other things that you've got to have licenses to do in every state. Look at your state laws and what kind of licenses you've got to have to do this or that. Or if you live in a city, all the rules and regulations that you've got. You live in a subdivision and you've got all these laws on the homeowners association. You chose to buy that house under those homeowners association rules, and you may not like it, but that was your choice. If you don't like it, move to the country, move somewhere that doesn't have a homeowners association, or get involved. Get involved at the grassroots. Get the government out of yours and my life. Let us have life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Protect our borders. We protect our homes. We put security in our homes. Some people, if they're rich, they may put walls around their homes to keep people out, but we don't want to keep anybody out of this country. Well, you know what? My grandparents moved here from Poland, and they came in through Ellis Island. They came in following the laws of the country because they wanted to be here. They wanted to improve their lives, contribute to this economy. So protect our borders. We want immigration here. We just want it to be legal. Force the rules on businesses that hire illegals. If you put businesses there and make sure that you can't hire somebody that's illegal and pay them, then they won't be coming here illegally. They're going to come here legally to get a job. I've got a lot of friends and a lot of people we have helped in immigration that have immigrated to this country legally. And they're not happy with illegal immigration either. They went through every section of red tape to get to this country and do things the right way. Defend our borders. See, simple changes, simple rules. Many, many years ago, and I don't even know, matter of fact, I'm going to have to look this up. Our legislators basically volunteered to go and represent you and I in the federal government. And then it became paid. And then it became all kinds of bureaucrats up there. We need to get it back. I live in Texas, and they meet every 2 years. They get called back for special legislation. They get small per diems, but they go back into the workforce and work like you and I do. Pass that balanced budget, put a balanced budget amendment in. I think we can get enough states that would say, yes, we need to do this, live within our means. You and I can't live in an exorbitant, spend everything that we want out there in the family. We would be bankrupt and broke. So why does our federal government extend credit beyond credit? Put each and every individual in this country, each citizen in this country, so much in debt. Balance the budget. Actually pass a budget every year. If it doesn't pass, no continuing resolution. Give us a budget or get out. Do your job. See, people don't like the fact that we here in the U.S. should demand better of our politicians, demand better of the people that are up there representing you and I. Demand that, hey, we've put Social Security and Medicare in place. We put in Obamacare, and it is not affordable. Government's paying a lot of the premiums for everybody. It used to be that I, as an employer, could afford to pay health insurance for my employees because it didn't cost that much to have health insurance for my employees. And then Obamacare came along to say, make it more affordable. It made it more expensive. And then it put the burden on the government to help pay for this. Get the government out of our lives. It will help you. It will help me. Pre-existing conditions, I understand it. Carry health insurance. You should carry it. You should be carrying it from when you get out of college till forever. You're not invincible. I know everybody feels it's invincible, but when health insurance was reasonable, you could afford to carry that health insurance, and you chose not to. Medicare, Medicaid is that safety net to help you when you have that situation that's out there. And that's what it's there for. Social Security was meant as a safety net, not as a be-all, end-all for your retirement. But for many, it is. So not taxing Social Security is a beautiful benefit to help those that are there. But it needs to be fixed. See, baby boomers flooding retirement. Many of them still have to work because of inflation, because of cost of living and everything out there. So not taxing Social Security will help, but fixing Social Security would have helped years ago. And now we need to fix it because future generations need that help. So that's my soapbox for today. How to fix the government in some quick, easy steps. I feel it's easy, but let's start with the first two main things. And once you put those two things in place, term limits for House and Senate, and no pensions. Government pensions out the door. Put them on Social Security. Love it. Let's get it done. And next week, we're going to keep talking taxes. We're going to find ways to reduce taxes for truckers, for small businesses. That is what our job is here to do. So join with us every week, Mondays, 10 a.m. Eastern Time at Tax Talk for You. Be here every Monday. Thank you. Got it.
Are you an individual or business that wants to understand taxes and how they affect you? Are you looking for specific tax advice for self-employed, business owners, and truckers? Are you behind on taxes and your bookkeeping? Are you dealing with the IRS and ready to have some relief? Then you need Tax Talk for You, hosted by tax and trucker expert Barry G. Fowler, EA. Tune in 10 a.m. Eastern Time every Monday right here on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV. Don't forget to check this and past episodes at taxtalkforyou.com. See you next week at W4CY.com.